Good evening, Ian Henderson with ABC News. The Premier, Daniel Andrews, has raised the stakes in his pledge to scrap the multi-billion-dollar East-West Link project. He's considering special legislation to avoid paying a hefty compensation bill to the winning consortium. For now, confidential negotiations are continuing, and the Premier won't be drawn on the likely cost to taxpayers. Francis Bell reports.
The Premier's opposition to the East-West Link is unequivocal.
I will not break the commitments I made before November the 29th. We're not building this project. It is a dud project.
That means breaking the contract with the winning consortium, East-West Connect. Before the election, Labor denied that would expose taxpayers to any compensation, let alone the $1.1 billion estimated by Treasury at the time.
The contracts signed in these circumstances are not worth the paper they're written on.
The contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on. No compensation will be paid.
It's not something the Premier will repeat now.
It's appropriate to refund people costs that they've been incurred. We're going to work through these issues responsibly, carefully, and again, I'm not going to run a commentary on them.
Despite insisting the negotiations are confidential, he's leaving open the option of special legislation to avoid paying compensation.
You asked me whether I would rule that out, and I'm not ruling that out. Others can make a judgment about messages that sends or doesn't send.
The Coalition wrote the compensation clause into the contract. It now says any move to legislate against it would be disastrous and invoke sovereign risk.
Daniel Andrews has a responsibility as Premier of Victoria to do what is financially right and, of course, to put in place infrastructure for our state's future. He is doing neither of those two at the moment.
Even if the government does resort to special legislation, it'll require the backing of minor parties in the upper house to pass the parliament. The Greens are supportive, but the votes of at least 2 more micro-party MPs would be needed to get it over the line. Francis Bell, ABC News, Melbourne.